2022, and the time is 2 p.m. Good afternoon. I want to welcome you to our RCH Board Meeting today. I believe everyone is aware that we're here today to discuss the drought and discuss the water issues that we face. We hope that you will leave here with a better understanding of the issues and how RCH is and has been working on plans to mitigate this problem through our ongoing drought. Our main goal today is obviously to ensure that you have an adequate supply of safe, healthy water. I am committed, as well as the other board members, to continue working on this issue as we have been even before the occurrence of this recent drought. This time I'd like to introduce our board to you. Right here is Steve Hatfield, if you raise your hand. Warren Hodges, Lowell English, and Gary Lovell is not here today, he's on vacation. Dwight Lindop is our maintenance person, and Eddy Daniel is our engineer, and Art Rodriguez is our attorney. And at this time, I want to turn it over to citizens' comments, and if you would be limited it to 3 minutes, we would appreciate it. And if you would come kind of up here where everybody can hear you. So I'll open it up for public comments.
I'll start. 7 years ago, we were in the same predicament.
Would you come up here, please?
My name is Jeffrey Camp. I'm out of High Point Ranch. 7 years ago, several of us were here in the same predicament, where RCH has oversold their contract based on what they have with Rockwall. I had asked if you guys had a 5-year plan. You said you didn't. The following week, suddenly one appeared. At that time, you said your 5-year plan was to install a 36-inch line out of Terrell to the North Texas District and to build a tower. We're 7 years in, none of that has been started. I'd really like to understand where you guys are with getting that done and what you're doing to stop the issuing of meters, which is required by your stage 4 written requirements. This is getting ridiculous. I got up at 2 o'clock the other morning, flushed the toilet, I had no water pressure, toilet wouldn't refill. That's unacceptable. We get a fire, we have no water pressure for fire. So we've been down this path, and we're going down this path every other year. Several of us have to contact the TECQ to come up here and start counting on you guys to get moving on projects. The last time we were here in 2015, that forced you to upgrade your 8 and 6-inch water line to a 16-inch line to Rockwall because they didn't have the pressure but had enough water that they could at least get the flow to 2.1. We've been at 2.1 gallons since 2012. The growth out here has more than doubled. And we have done nothing as a water company to address that as far as the infrastructure, other than lay more pipes and issue more meters. So I'd really like to understand where we are going forward, when that tower is going to be built. When did you apply to the North Texas Water District? And how are we going to get this addressed so that we aren't constantly having this battle every year? Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Eddie, would you like to address that?
Do we want to hear comments and then I can make it better?
Okay.
I'm jotting down a few
Okay.
things. I'll be glad to talk to some of this as I'm jotting down some notes on what we.
Next person.
I've got a question. I'm fairly new to McLendon-Chisholm. I lived in Roy City, and this is the first time I've ever experienced in 50 years, and I've lived on the East Coast, West Coast, and half a dozen places in between. Never had to boil water, always had water. I guess I just took it for granted. And I don't know why the Republic of Texas were having to deal with this. And I don't understand, well, as of 2 mornings ago, Rockwall County didn't have a lot of restrictions. Fayette doesn't, Roy City doesn't. Heath is at stage 3. They're allowing irrigation every other week. And we're sitting here, and I think I understand the situation was the growth of the community, but how is it we're not keeping up with the demand for capacity? Is my first question. What are the other communities doing better than we're doing here? since they're able to water their lawns and fill their pools and all that good stuff. And I think you're gonna answer some of these questions that the other gentleman brought up. I had a bunch of them, so I'm looking forward to your answers.
Thank you, sir.
Mm-hmm.
I'll be real quick. I'm Terry Proniger. Spent a lot of my life in utility planning and long-range planning. So my question is simply for the engineer, for Mr. Daniel's credit, is I'd like to know more about your long-range forecasting, what your forecast is, what your past forecast is, where we are in that forecast, ahead or behind of that forecast, your plans going forward in order to meet capacity and pressure, and what your timeline is on infrastructure improvements going forth based on your projections. Thank you.
Thank you.
So I'm Ron Davis. You say this is like a new problem, that this is something from the drought. I've been experiencing water pressure issues this whole year. So this isn't from the drought. This is every night I can go out there and check my water pressure, and I'm at 20 to 25 PSI at my hydrant. So I don't feel that this is something that is new. This is something that's ongoing. So I don't feel a drought has anything to do with this.
Where do you live, sir?
I live in High Point Ranch.
High Point Ranch, thank you.
I want to go along with him. This has nothing to do with the drought. If we had water pressure, we could water our lawns with our sprinklers and not have to worry about the heads popping up because we have no damn pressure. I have to pick between shower, washing clothes, washing dishes. It's ridiculous. Flushing toilets is an issue. And then when we call here, we get attitude. Your communication is horrid and makes this situation even worse. Just like listening to that gentleman say that he doesn't care about his shrubs, he's going to lose them, didn't like them anyways. I just planted all my new shrubs, over 10,000 that I'm losing because you didn't do your job, sir. That's not right, and I want to know where I can put in a claim to you for my losses, because I have $30,000 worth of landscaping I put in May and March. No, I don't want to hear from you. Thank you.
I didn't mean that I didn't care about them. I mean, I had no
Sir, the
choice.
fact that you're talking about it is insensitive, and that's what's the problem with your company. Insensitive.
Next.
I'm Stephen Hawley. I'm from High Point Ranch as well, and I can equate our water pressure. I turned on, tried to take a shower at 6:30 this morning, and my shower was barely running. So, you know, it's that same kind of thing. We were trying to do stuff, and this has happened. We've lived there for 3 years. We've experienced this 2 years ago, where we had to boil water noses because, you know, we had to have Texas Quality come out and check the pressures and found out they were inadequate. But besides reiterating what everybody else, one of the things I've noticed is that there are no board of directors minutes listed on the website for any of the meetings. So as members, as I understand it, everybody who has a meter is a member. We have no transparency into what the board is doing. We have no idea on the planning area unless it's listed on the website, which right now there's 0 projects listed on the website. So I've asked for the bylaws. I called in and they said they were not available on the website. They'd send them to me. I have yet to see them. That was a month, over a month ago now. I asked for the board of directors minutes for all the meetings for the past 2 years. Haven't seen anything on that. Right now, from stuff that I've seen, there is no transparency in what the board is doing. It's leading to a lot of people who are skeptical about motives and that kind of thing. So that's what I'd like to say.
Thank you, sir. Anyone else? Yes, ma'am.
My name's Linda DeBray. I live right next door here in Kensington Park. I've noticed that the water pressure goes way down in the evenings. I got sweaty the other day in the afternoon, was outside in the afternoon, wanted to shower off before I went to bed. I flushed the toilet. I immediately went to go turn on the shower. It was just a trickle coming out until the toilet refilled. Never experienced that in any other place that I've lived. I mean, I videotaped it, it was just so crazy. And I'm concerned if we have a fire, like I think Jeffrey mentioned, how, especially that day that we didn't have water. I was worried, you know, what if we have a fire? There's no way to put it out. So I'm just really concerned about the lack of water pressure that's happening now. It feels like it goes down in the afternoons, so I'm just wondering why that happens.
Thank you, ma'am. Next.
I'm Pam Payne. We live in High Point Ranch. I just have a basic question because I don't know how this works. As far as like pool permits, I don't know if the HOA rules that or if you guys have to issue a permit for a swimming pool. But talk about using a lot of water when we can't water our lawns. I think if those are being if we're allowing new pools to go in, because there's 5 houses from our house going in, then I think that's a concern as well.
Thank you. Next.
Ron Hunt.
Would you come over here, please?
Ron Hunt in Hatfield Lake Estates. My concern is just over the timing. We went on vacation the Monday that we didn't notice. My sprinklers had been set. Of course, they were set for the wrong days. The next day I find out, oh, we can't sprinkle it off. You knew that something was coming up. There had to be some timing issues here. You can't just throw this at us one day and then make a change the next day, and then the next day we're out of water. I mean, that's just unacceptable from a timing perspective.
Thank you.
I've got one other question. How are you notifying customers? I received notification from RCH about the going on like by every other day of watering, that you were going on water restrictions, and then we're out of water. I had to get notified, well, one, trying to turn on water, and then went out to the website. Is it something that we have to go check your website every day to figure out what's going on with your company? I mean, this is a little ridiculous. I mean, we should be, you have every one of our phone numbers. If we're late on a bill, you either send us a notice, you send us a text or something else. Why in the heck aren't you doing it for notifications like this?
Thank you. Next.
I have a question. One.
Yes, sir.
How many more meters will you issue before we change our infrastructure?
I'll be back over here in cheap seats. When there's low pressure, there's intrusion problems. That there's water seepage into drinking water. There's a lot of folks around here. Oh, by the way, my name's Mike Easter. I'm down in McLendon-Chisholm. And the concern is that you got young kids, you got people that have, you know, a compromised health system. And so when microbes and stuff intrude in there because of low water pressure, how are people being notified that they need to do some boiling or take some other action other than having to look on the internet? Because that's really not a very effective way to tell people they need to do something to protect themselves. Not that I'm worried about it personally, but I've worked on poison hotlines and toxicologists and stuff, and so the first time, or whenever you have these sorts of things with public health, you got to let people know what's going on so you don't have ongoing problems afterwards. And that's just a concern that I wanted to raise here. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Next.
I want to bring 2 other things that kind of based on what you said. One is that we know we've got low water pressure that's happening, and if we're getting down to the point where we have a trickle, especially out in High Point Ranch, that means that, like you said, there's possibly going to be intrusion. But how are you guys monitoring those kind of situations? Because that, you know, I think technically, according to TCQ, that should be a boil water notice if the pressure drops below 20. I counted 20 psi or something like that. And out on the, from what I understand, we're out on the very end of the line, and our pressure is dropping, quite frequently to below that level. So we're not seeing any notices. We're not getting any, resolution. The other thing is that, I know people water, and bringing up the concern of the fire hazards. Right now, yes, I do. I will admit, I water my lawn. I have to water it because the year before last, when we had the same issue, we had a grass fire in the lot across from us because everything was so dry. A lawnmower caught the grass on fire and started to come in. That fire department had to come in, and we almost had a fire coming across the road. So I do some just so I don't have completely dry, dead fire hazard grass all around my house. It's a necessity. It's not a want or anything. It's just, we all know grass fires are all over the place. So, we've got this, we know we've got this water pressure issue, and just saying, oh, just cut back and don't water anything, we've got foundations that can cost, literally, trust me, I know because I have spent $75,000 on a house to fix foundation after issues that I've had before. So we can't just say, oh, just keep using less and less and less. We've got to fix this so we can actually do the things that we have to do, to maintain a house and not create a fire hazard in Texas. So.
Thank you. Next.
Yeah, in all of the documents that I could research about the county and the water district, I saw a number that you were authorized somewhere, I don't remember the exact number, but it was like 1,200 to 1,500 connections. And then I found another place where your current connections are over 2,000. So, obviously, if you have too many connections, you're going to have all the problems that people are talking about here. Now, what are you authorized for, and why are you over?
Thank you. Next. Yes, sir, if you'd come up here, please.
My name's Dave Turner. I live in High Point Ranch. I've lived there 18 years. This is like my 4th or 5th visit to this meeting over those 18 years. Every year, every time I come, it's the same problem continuing, and it's getting worse, has gotten worse, low water pressure. So in that time frame, it's incredible to me that we haven't gotten, we're in a high growth area. I understand that, but we have not gotten ahead of that problem. We've degraded. That's my only question. So what's our plan? Because what's been done in the past, promises of new water towers hasn't happened.
Thank you. Next.
Not me.
Yeah, not to be impolite, but could we hear from you, please?
Yeah, you
Yes,
ready?
Thank you for your comments. I'm going to turn it over to Eddie.
There's one more.
Richard Brown, I've been on this water system since 1985. It's the same thing's been going on. If you use the amount of water you buy and use the numbers that the state says to figure the number of connections, you authorize around 1,360 connections, you got over 4,000. And it's been the same thing every year. Now, you haven't had a board election in 2 years. You have a deceased person who's been dead for 6 years on your board of directors, at least listed on your website. And according to the Secretary of State, you're behind on your corporate filings, and you can't give us water. And we're tired of it. We're tired of it. What are we doing with you people? It's a joke. I hear the same thing. I've been hearing it for 15 damn years now. All we're going to get on with North Texas. North Texas ain't going to let you on. You're just going to have to figure out how to get your system right and be a customer of North Texas. That's all I got to say. In 35 years, that ain't never done.
Thank you. So what I'd like to do, my name is Eddy Daniel, and I'm the system engineer. I'm with Dunaway DBI. We do primarily water systems. We work with cities, water districts, water supply corporations. And we were talking a while ago with the attorney. been in the water business, either managing water systems or engineering water systems. This is my 37th year. So, been around for a little while, but what I want to do is answer all the questions that I can. And so if I don't answer them or good enough for you to understand, let me know. I'll be glad to follow up because we do have there's a lot going on that I want to give you some details on that's not readily available for everybody to kind of know. I want to start off by saying I won't be addressing the administrative issues because that's not in my realm. I'm the engineer. So only the technical issues, which really are the important issues right now, right? I mean, there are other important issues to think about, but so I want to talk about kind of the technical issues. And I want to mention that because I think it's kind of prudent about how many connections we have and how many we think, have we done some planning and what that might look like. And so we actually have a chart that shows how, over the next through 2050 what we expect the number of connection counts to be. We've shared this with the city of Rockwall and the city of North Texas Municipal Water District. We are applying to be a direct connection on North Texas Municipal Water District.
They've been doing that for 20 years.
Yeah, we actually have. We in July we got approval for the location. So that's the good news is we have an approval of the location. We made an application with North Texas. So back, matter of fact, I was here. Some of y'all might remember me from back then. I was here maybe 7 years ago. I don't know exactly when. And so we made that request then to get off of Rockwall, and Rockwall didn't support that. They wouldn't allow us to get off. Because when you buy water from a North Texas Municipal Water District customer or a member city, they have to approve you going directly to North Texas. That's just a requirement. And so at the time, Rockwall did not support that conversion. They do now, by the way. They would like for us to get off of their system and no longer purchase water from them. So the good news is we're headed that direction. We've made application with North Texas. They've done an analysis. July the 1st, matter of fact, I was looking back at the email. July the 1st, they gave us confirmation that we indeed can ultimately get a connection on their 42-inch pipeline, which is down just north of Terrell. We're going to be getting water that direction and pumping the other way instead of pumping from Rockwall. So that's good news. They've approved that the amount of water in this plan, the number of connections in this plan has been approved by North Texas. We don't have a contract with them yet, but they had to have their consultant, Freese and Nichols, do the analysis to determine if they could serve us that much water at that location for...
Can we stop?
Yes, sir.
How many connections do you have today?
We currently have around 2,500 active connections.
Okay, so the comment made a month ago that we have 3,000 connections was incorrect?
Yeah, we currently, last time I got it was about 2,550. So that's still about right. So we have 2,550 active connections.
That's twice what you should have. That's twice what you're telling the city of Rockwall.
No, they
we've been to the city of Rockwall, and they tell us one thing.
let me finish. So just hang tight with me. Let me finish, and then you can believe what you want. I'm just giving you the facts. So Rockwall has this chart. So does North Texas. They see the numbers. They know the numbers. We have a letter that we've given Rockwall as of April the 22nd that gives exactly the same numbers. We made the official request to North Texas. We told them, per the reference chart, this chart, RCH is currently serving 2,550 connections. RCH requests service for up to 700 additional connections. So it would get us some ability to grow a little bit on their system while we're getting off and on to North Texas. So that's kind of the request that we've made. We've also said at that point we intend to purchase water directly from North Texas on the 42-inch line. We asked them to renew the contract until we can get off on North Texas.
At what volume?
At a number of connections, not a volume. So
We're still
limited
to 2.1 million.
right now we are, yes, sir, because we don't yet have a new contract. So the city of Rockwall has taken this letter. So based on this letter, we've gone to North Texas, we've gotten approval for the location. We have budgets, we have proposals for it.
Okay,
And I'll share some of, just a second.
Yeah.
So I'll share some of that with you.
I want to stick to the details right now that we're at.
Yeah, that's what I'm trying to tell you. So
you said
Rockwall,
2550, right, is the number of connections. But according to your chart, for this year, you're only estimated 2524. So you're already 25 over for this year, and 700 only gets you to 2024, which is only in 2 years.
right. Well, so if you look at the chart, it says beginning of year connections. So at the beginning of this year, we were at 2524. We're currently at 2550. We're probably a little over that right now. We've asked for 700 more from the city. The city has taken the letter, and their attorney's working on the revision, and they've told us that as soon as the attorney gets it to you, we'll send it to you as soon as the attorney has the revised agreement.
Is there a value per connection? Is there so many gallons per connection?
Well, I'll talk about that in just a second. Okay, let me kind of finish this because I do want to talk about the actual usage in the system. Okay, so I'm just kind of giving you a timeline. So Rockwall is in the process. This was sent out in April. Rockwall has not yet. They do support us because they've given us a letter that we sent to North Texas to say, yes, we want to allow RCH to go directly to North Texas. They did put a letter together saying that. So they're supportive of that. But we haven't yet gotten a renewal of the contract based on the letter. Okay, the letter which says we want to go to North Texas, we're going to go to the 42-inch line, we have 2,550 connections, we want 700 more, we'll be off of your system within 2 years. Totally off. That's the contract currently is, it's a month-to-month contract right now. Yeah, they're supplying us on a month-to-month basis. Okay.
Why are we so far behind? I mean, last year I had to boil water. I've only been in High Point Ranch for 3 years, and I've had to boil water each year.
So in last year, the problem with it was the small lines serving High Point Ranch. Since then, there's been a water line improvement, the 12-inch water line improvement to add capacity along 205 and along back to High Point Ranch. We also have, so let's talk about some improvements. We have bid a new elevated storage tank. We bid it a year ago. But we don't yet have approval from McLendon-Chisholm to get a building permit to start construction. So we have some issues with McLendon-Chisholm trying to get final approvals on the location. The location is on League and Edwards, the corner of League and Edwards. It's been bid for a year. But we can't yet start construction until McLendon-Chisholm approves it.
500,000
and we're working through those issues, and we hope we're close, but that's been a long run out.
500,000 gallons?
It's a 500,000 gallon elevator.
So the whole plan is to increase pressure as a result of that? Because it won't
No, that's only one piece. I'll talk about the rest of the improvements. Okay, so one piece is a new elevated storage tank, which duplicates the one we have at the take point, the pump station, and it will float with it, so it makes 1 million gallons of elevated storage and interconnection with 12-inch water lines that have been installed. So all the 12-inch lines have been installed. They're in service. The elevated tank has been bid and is just waiting to start construction. So next step. So what does it look like for next step? So we made application with North Texas Municipal Water District for approval of a connection, a new take point. We would be a customer entity, not a member city. There are no new member cities on North Texas, so you only become a customer entity. So we would become a customer entity of North Texas Municipal Water District. We would buy water on a 42-inch line, kind of north of Terrell, and we will bring a new line up to the system. So at the take point, right where we make connection, we'll have a pump station, a ground storage tank and pump station there. Then when we will pump water to our system, which would be about the High Point Ranch general location, and we will build another pump station there and have another, so 500,000 gallon ground storage tank at the take point, 500,000 gallon ground storage tank at the new pump station. Then that would be pumped into the system, hopefully into the new elevated tank. Because, like I say, that's already designed, bid, TCQ approval. We're just waiting to get final building certificate to get started.
How long y'all been waiting on that so far?
We made our initial application a year ago with the city of McLendon. Yes, sir.
What's the intended capacity at the 42-inch table?
So what we have turned into North Texas is growth to a population of 18,000, which is 6,126 connections. So
put that in gallons per day. I know your calculations. There's so many gallons per connection.
Yeah, sure, there is. So it would be the max day would be 5.6 million gallons per day. So the capacity calculation they have approved that an increasing amount up to 5.6 million gallons per day. Okay.
And on your projections, how many years do you hit that peak? How many years involved?
So great question. That's a good opportunity to talk about. Let's talk about usages, system-wide usages. Okay, because I mentioned that I work with a lot of water entities. I was going to look. So Rockwall sent me, if I can find it here, Rockwall sent to me there it is, a screenshot of the daily usage. And this is just their telemetry, but what they do is they record meters. And so what they've done is they've done this, and I'll get to you, okay? So they've given us the amount of water that RCH has purchased on a daily basis in July. This is July's numbers. I received this when I got the first call from Public Works in Rockwall that they were going to dial back the amount of water they gave us. So Rockwall we actually peaked out on July the 8th. Let's see, July the 8th at 3.01 million gallons per day. So over 3 million gallons per day. I'm glad you asked that. So
you got peaks and valleys.
yeah, sure. So that was what it peaked out. The Texas Water Development Board says normal average usage per person per day. So you figure an average of 3 persons per household. So average usage per person per day in the state of Texas right now is 100 gallons per person per day. On July the 8th, RCH was using over 400 gallons per person per day. It's 4 times the state limit.
There again, the question was, what was the average water usage per month? I don't care how much a person.
So the average water usage for the month, just a second. Hey, look, I'm trying to help. All I'm trying to do is help. So if you could just bear with me and let me get through the data, I'll be glad to follow up with any questions. Okay? But do we agree that if you just let me kind of finish it, I don't mind answering questions. I'm not running from you here. I'm the one standing up here talking. So it's just so the average usage was 2.7 million gallons per day. The average. So under 3, but still an awful lot of usage. RCH on average uses about, and I work with lots of folks, and the RCH uses about 3 to 4 times the average usage per customer in summer usage. And we all know it's related to outdoor watering. We understand that. Lots of people peek out. It's bigger. So what North Texas allows you, the highest of anybody I know, yes sir? The highest of anybody I've ever worked with. It is. You don't have to believe me. I'm just saying. It's okay. But I'm just saying, with all the customers I work with, see, North Texas allows a 2.2 peaking. So average to peak usage. You peak it over 4 times. 3 to 4
We
times.
have large
So-
properties out here.
Absolutely. Oh, there's reason. I'm not saying there's not reason. I'm just saying the irrigation amount, the outdoor watering amount is big here.
But
It's much
again,
bigger.
the irrigation problem is that we have no pressure. So when you try to do an area and you come out the next morning and just a little circle's done, because it didn't really pop up, then you have to water by hand.
Sure, I understand. So,
Is this something new? That we're
No.
using that?
no, your system uses a lot of water. So what we've done is, so North Texas, so the day that, kind of the infamous day when the water was shut off, the city of Rockwall called me. They actually sent an email to me and I forwarded it to the system. So one day before they put us on the rationing is when it happened. So that's why you didn't get like a week or 2 weeks notice. We learned about it the day before. So we only got a day's notice, and they said on Wednesday, we're limiting your usage to 2.1 million gallons per day. And that 2.1 million gallons per day, as a matter of fact, is 280 gallons per person per day. It's 280.
With all the new builds?
Pardon?
Do you guys go out there and survey and see how many new builds are coming up? Because I know in HPR
No.
we've got like 10 or 15 new houses.
Yeah, but it's not counting the new build. This is for existing meters. So this is the usage on the existing
When
system.
a house is built, doesn't the meter come on?
When the house is when
Being done?
when it's final when the house is finally finalized, yes.
Okay, so we
but it
have-
counts. So it's per meter. So the usage I'm using is per meter per day. Okay. So the usage. So we kind of established that the usage is high. We understand, and I think there's good reasons for that. There's big estates, there's big yards, there's lots of landscapes, new landscapes. That's okay. I've got a client over City of Josephine. They're having a similar deal where they've had lots of growth, and their irrigations are the reason that during the middle of the night their towers actually start dropping because the outdoor watering comes on and really hits their system hard. So the instance of outdoor watering is a lot bigger than it used to be in general. I'll go ahead and answer your question.
Well, I would like, as a user who runs a outdoor sprinkler system, I need 20 gallons a minute at 35 pounds PSI through a 3/4 inch meter. When will you provide that?
So we made application. So let's kind of finish what it looks like if we.
I want to be sure that you're looking at the right goal metric.
Yeah, sure.
That's what I need to run one circuit.
Right.
And so and then you can apply, okay, if 25% of 2,500 are watering at one time, you can go through that number to ensure that you get 35 pounds PSI for one circuit for a quarter of your customers or whatever you want to talk about.
Sure. That's why.
I want to get down to that metric.
Sure. That's exactly why we need that elevated tank. The other elevated tank, that's another 500,000 gallons up in the air.
Will that provide what I just asked?
Yes, sir. And it'll provide twice that because the TCQ. So right now, our 500,000 gallon elevated meets all the TCQ requirements. TCQ requirement is 200 gallons of elevated storage per connection. 200 gallons. We do that in just our elevated. Now, we have also ground storage at the existing tank point. So we more than double meet the capacity requirements. But yet, let me finish. But yet we're also proposing to double that elevated storage capacity. We're waiting to start that project. We bid it. So we would have enough for 5,000 connections. But then we're also going to build the new take point, which is another 500,000 gallon ground storage, and then the new pump station at the edge of the system, which is another 500,000. So we will have 5 times the amount of storage that is required by TCQ per connection.
But the question was, when can I get 20 gallons a minute at 35 PSI on a 3/4 inch meter at my lot?
Okay, so let's talk about.
That's what it runs out to. I mean, that's.
Sure. So let's talk about timing. So we may, because I know that's what everybody wants. no, definitely. When we get approval from McLendon-Chisholm, we're ready to start the elevated, and that's going to start. And if we're real fortunate, it's going to be ready by this time next year. It's an elevated storage tank is a 400-day construction timeline. So the fact that we've been waiting a year to get this, we should have it online right now, but we don't. If we get it, because we have not gotten a building permit from.
What's the holdup?
There's a host of things that, I mean, we made application, we sent, well, I mean, too many things to go into right now, except that it went to P&Z, it went to the planner, it went to the engineer, and so for months we didn't get a response from the engineer, the city engineer.
So McLendon-Chisholm buys water from us as well, right? From RCH?
They do not buy water. We serve part of the residents in McLendon-Chisholm.
So you have leverage. Tell me, you're going to shut it off if they don't approve the town.
Well, but see, we can't do that. See, it's in the city limits. That site is in the city limits of McLendon-Chisholm. So we have to meet we have to get a building permit from them. So we're forced to play ball with them.
I'm curious. Is there any councilman from McLendon-Chisholm here? Any? Wonderful.
So
how about the city manager?
This has been approved. I mean, this was approved, I think, 2 weeks ago. We go to the
The
contract.
28th.
However, the construction may not, and it still has some process to go through in terms of construction itself. As far as the planning over there.
We don't have final approval from the city engineer yet.
Because there were some things that you had to do. We approved it upon condition of those things.
Yeah, and we made about 10 submittals back and forth on it. So we hope we're nearly.
But city council and P&Z have approved that.
Subject to getting final approval from the engineer,
yes.
but that's the problem is we can't get final approval from the engineer.
But your comments implied that the city was responsible for the delays. You didn't suggest that anything y'all did or didn't do was holding it up, and now we're hearing a little more of the whole story.
No, actually I said that we made.
Let me finish.
Okay.
What we're looking for is transparency here. So I want total honesty in all your answers from both sides of the equation, please.
Yeah. Okay. So what we did, what I mentioned is that we made application for a building permit a year ago with McLendon-Chisholm. Right. I know that was a point when Lisa, because I know Lisa at Josephine. Lisa was there. She admitted seeing that and getting that. But so it's been at McLendon-Chisholm a long time. Yes, sir.
And is that because they've just been holding it, or have they asked you for information? Has it been a back and forth process?
For 6 months, we didn't get an answer.
We're not talking about
this.
And
you
just sit there and that's okay.
We can address that separately. I'll be glad to provide if the council or somebody, we can show when we sent it in, and we can show when we got the first request for anything and so forth. So we can work through that.
When will we break ground?
If you had the approval today, when would you break ground?
As soon as the contractor can mobilize on site.
What is that?
Oh, well, I can't tell you that because the contractor has to tell us
Tell us that you bid it a year ago. What contractor would honor their price from a year ago?
Oh, they're not. They are going up because steel prices and concrete prices
So
increase.
all that has to be redone before you can start construction. So
We're not rebidding. No, we have the same contractor. The contractor's bid. He's going to do the project. He's just giving RCH a final price because we still don't know the final requirements from the city engineer, the McLendon-Chisholm. We've had to add landscaping and brick columns and.
why we can't water it?
Is this the first water tower you've built? Are these new? I mean, is this the first water tower you've built? So, no. So these probably aren't new requirements that nobody's ever asked of you before. You should have had the foresight.
Yeah.
And it seems like you're passing the buck, blaming McLendon-Chisholm that they've had it for a year and you've not gotten anywhere.
This isn't only. I just mentioned that it's not like it's in response to saying there's been no plan for anything. We bid a tower a year ago, so there is a plan. It's just that we're trying to get to the next step.
If you haven't taken a big project like this and gone to a city, it takes a lot of interaction.
We know.
There's delays.
We represent City
I
is
can
pretty
tell you,
good.
I've been on that side too, and
Yes, sir.
this ought to go quick.
Yeah, I
And
understand.
you get somebody that they're busy, it's a busy time.
That's correct. You're right.
Just a long-
Yeah, it's a combination of the timing, the switch in administration, the city engineer being busy, us being busy. So it's a combination.
It's a difficult thing.
It's not solely anybody's fault.
I understand what you're
Yeah.
doing.
So wait. I got two before you. Yes, sir.
According to the McLendon-Chisholm City Council minutes that I looked at yesterday, maybe down the landscape.
But do I know?
The only thing that I could find yesterday when I looked at the McLendon-Chisholm City Council minutes was landscape. It looks like that might be towards the end of it.
We are. I think we're very near the end of it. Yeah, I do. As I mentioned, I think we're very near the end.
One quick question, with regard to the direct connection to North Texas, is that entirely approved, or are we just down to the physical work?
Yeah, great. I appreciate you asking that, because that's a step I needed to mention.
Along the same lines that you answered all at the same time. Do we have the right of way already secured? And do we have the locations for both of them?
Great point. So because I know we need to circle back and ask, this gentleman said, when am I going to get 20 gallons per minute at 35 PSI? So hold on, So where we are with North Texas, we've made an application with North Texas based on our growth numbers, based on usage. They had their consultant, Friesen Nichols, do a study. We got word July 1st that they approved that, yes, we can give you water at this location. So what we immediately did, went back to Rockwall and said, we got approval from North Texas for this new site. We need now, because they have to agree to our request to get off. We can't get on North Texas if we can't get off Rockwall. And so we went back to Rockwall and said, okay, we're ready to move off.
Why is that a condition of forming a month-to-month contract with them though?
Because North Texas requires them to allow us off. See, Rockwall is a member city of North Texas. They have to approve every step of us getting off of them. Now, they want us off. I believe they want us off. I really do. And you call them, any of y'all who called them, they'll probably say, yeah, we'd love to have RCH off. We want them to get a direct connect. We don't want to send water through them, through our system. But we do not have, their city attorney has not yet sent us a response. We're waiting, and we can't go by right of way or by easements or anything, because we can't get a site if we don't know we can't get off of Rockwall. That's the first. So here's the next steps. Let me lay out all the next steps. If Rockwall gives us if their attorney gives us the final approval, which we're waiting on, been waiting on for a while, but we're waiting on. As a matter of fact, I've got some email chains where it says, any word, we're anxious to keep this moving, so forth, so on. We don't have that yet, but let's assume we get that soon. The very next step after that would be for us to do two things. Go execute a contract with North Texas, which is always the first thing you do. Once the city allows you off, you go execute a contract. That's ready to go. Second, we'll start acquiring, we have to buy a site. Got to build this pump station. We've got to buy a site to put it on. And then we have to get right of way to get from that location to our system. So, yes, sir?
On the subject of buying the tracks, when I was on the minutes side of McLendon-Chisholm, I saw the plans. I know that you have the plans.
The elevated? Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
When I go to the appraisal district side, I see the tracks that you all own up the road, that we own up the road. But I don't see that we own, at least they don't carry us owning anything at League and Edwards. Why is that?
They're behind, so the developer donated the site for that on the corner, and because it has to be platted, that's what makes it an official lot, and so that's why that's the whole process. It's being platted through the city because it has to be platted because it wasn't a platted lot. I'm sorry.
The actual
once the final plat is approved, then it will show up.
Just curious why it didn't show up.
Yeah.
Sorry about everybody. The question on, if you get final approval, go build your water tower, that's a 12 or 14 month deal, right?
Yes, sir.
Okay, now, I understand the connection you're getting on the 42-inch line, I think that's really good, that's kind of where we should have been years ago.
Sure, I agree.
No problem, we understand that.
Agree.
Now you're talking about right of way, I'm in the oil and gas business, you understand you could be 20 years gathering that right of way.
Yeah. Actually, fortunately, we have authority to condemn property.
Yeah, you
for-
know how long that takes if somebody
Oh.
you can be in court.
We go through it regularly. We know, we go through it regularly. You can actually get, you can get a right, you can now get a right of entry very early. So you can, it can, when you get to a certain point, you can get a right of entry, and then you can go ahead and start with your project when you know you're gonna ultimately get it.
I'm in this business my whole life, I know how long I can tie you up and how long, I could keep you in the court 20 years.
Understand. Yeah, that's always a bit of a challenge. So, hang tight with me. So, I want to talk to you a little bit about, because we do have actual firm numbers. So, RCH is prepared, so the elevated water tower has been in at $2.3 million. There will be an increase based on steel and concrete prices, but RCH is still moving forward that project. The pump station, the North Texas Take Point pump station, and the pump station up on the system is $6.5 million project. Then the 12-inch, the water line that has to connect them and then tie into the new elevated tank is $5 million. So all total, about $13 or $14 million worth of improvements that are planned and proposed. So just want to kind of give you an idea. It's not a pie in the sky idea. They're specific. We have routes, locations, specific deals. We haven't acquired right of way or sites because we can't, because we don't have approval from Rockwall yet. We expect to get it, but we don't have it.
How much of that 13, 14 million is in reserve?
I don't know that because that's not my bailiwick, but that's something you could ask the board. So I suspect some of this will get financed. And some of it could come out of reserves, but just a second. Yes, sir. I'll come to you next, okay?
I'm going to tie the two together. After we spend $14 million, will I get, and I'm sorry for this, will I get 20 gallons a minute, 35 PSI, and through a 3/4 inch meter at my block?
So, oddly enough, if we could get the 3 million gallons from Rockwall right now, I mean, if they could, because we are able to take that much water from Rockwall. We're able to pump it while it's pumping. It's when they curtail it. That's the problem is they have limited us to 2.1 million gallons per day.
Why is that?
Because they don't have it. They have to serve, they're growing just like everybody. So it's not really their fault. They're just saying, we're serving all of our folks. We're serving y'all. We've got to limit y'all. And so they have specifically limited us to 2.1 million gallons per day. But keep in mind the 2. Hold on. Let me finish this one thing. So keep in mind the 2.1 million gallons per day is still 280 gallons per person. Per person.
I get that, but the 2.1 million is not providing pressure because looking at how much we've used over the last several days since the restrictions have gone in, we've dropped considerably down to like 1.7 million a day.
Right.
2 o'clock in the morning, I flush the toilet and I have no pressure to refill my tank.
Right.
That's not 10 PSI, that's 0 PSI.
So
you have 2.1 million.
Right.
You're not pushing that pressure now.
Yeah.
And that's the problem now. It's not. By the time Dave gets his 20, I'm sorry, Dave. He'll be in a retirement home. We already know that.
20 at 35.
But we need to address the pressure issue now. We need a pump station today in between the systems.
No, actually, we can pump it. We can't get it from Rockwall.
You're not. You say we have 2.1 million.
But what they do, and the reason that's an operational deal. The reason we shut down is because we can't bump it again at 2.1. The valve shuts and the system dewaters completely. You can't afford it. And so what happens is you stop. You aim for less than that because you limit the amount of water coming in so that you don't hit the wall and zero water in the
But the
system.
So
outflow
then
is
you're
only
limiting the
1.7.
pumping at some point during the day.
Yes, we're limiting the amount that can go into the system so that we won't totally run out of water
I
in the
get in
system.
the system, but why are people having no water? I mean,
Because of
what's
the
as
demand,
health
because
issue?
of the demand.
So, and on that limit,
No,
why not go?
he already said the numbers at 1.7, 1.8.
But, so, let's say 1.7. 1.7 is far, your average usage is like during the winter is what? So, average usage per day during the winter is 400 and something thousand gallons per day. You're at 1 point, so you're 4 times that now.
Right, you say you can pump it, why are we not getting it?
Because Rockwall won't give us, they cut us off at 2.1. So it's an estimate as how much is gonna go, and so we have to limit.
Can't we agree 1.7 is less than 2.1?
We do. Okay, now you had a question, this gentleman's very patient.
Just a clarification, when you're talking meters or connections, is this strictly residential or is this commercial properties too?
Residential.
Okay.
Yeah. It's single family equivalent connection. So let's say you have a real estate office, that counts as a residence, as a single family equivalent. But it's not a big industrial, like super huge usage or something like that. It's just single family equivalent. It's residential.
So you say you're renegotiating your contract with Rockwall, correct?
No. So what we have asked Rockwall for is we said, you want us off your system? We want off your system. We've gone to North Texas. They've told us that they can service at that location. Here's what we need. We need to get off. We need final approval to get off. We're serving 2,550 connections. We want 700 more for the interim till we get off. All right. We want. We need 2 years to get off. So 2 years is the outside date.
But you haven't told me, does that provide 20 pounds, 20 gallons a minute at 35 PSI?
Yes, sir.
At my lot?
Yes, sir, it does. Yeah, it does.
Well, okay, but then the question becomes, as that lady said, why haven't we gotten it now? Why haven't we gotten it every other year for the last 15 years?
Because we didn't get enough supply. We don't get enough supply from Rockwall.
No.
We don't even have pressure in the winter.
Oh, well, if you don't have pressure in the winter, then you've got an internal issue because the system, there is no limitation in the winter. Yes, sir.
So since we started rationing, what are we using per day?
I'm sorry?
Since we started doing this rationing, what are we?
Let's see. So the average usage per day now is 1.7 something million gallons per day, system wide. Okay, that's with the rationing that's going on.
Trudy.
Yes, ma'am.
You talked about taps or connections. And you state that you got 2,400?
2,550.
Okay, and you're asking for 700 more? Is that including the build out of Sonoma Boulevard?
No, not ultimate build out, no. But it's just enough connections. We believe that will carry us through the next 2 years until we're on with North Texas.
So
I think Blackland got the contract.
Blackland's taking the last two segments.
Not the supply lines.
So base 3 and 4 are going to be served by RCH?
Correct. Don't you guys, doesn't RCH have all of Sonoma Verde?
Well, the newest phases of Sonoma Verde are across the road, and that's going to Blackland Water.
Which is over there.
The fourth phase. Is that on us?
Yeah, it's all in.
Okay, it's on us. Yeah. But what we tallied up is the number of connections we need in the next 2 years, including any that are sold in any of those developments.
But what I'm asking is those homes that are being built in Sonoma Verde right now, they're going through you, they're coming through you. Are they included in your total of
Yes.
numbers of connections?
Yes, they're included in the proposed 700 additional. Yes, they are. And so what we've asked Rockwall to do is to give us the amount of water to serve those. So in other words, we've asked Rockwall not to limit us to 2 points. What we want to do is say, look, we want off your system, you want us off, give us approval to do the current number of connections, all of y'all, plus 700 more, Sonoma and some others that are around. We want those connections, and you'll serve us the water to feed those connections.
What about the subdivision that's Heritage, that's brand new, that's coming out?
That's in that number 2. That's in the number 2. That's in that total as well.
So what's stopping us?
Just a second. Let her finish.
So, in other words, you have given them permission that you guys.
No, we haven't. They've started some construction, but they can't get any meters at this point because they don't have a will serve letter. We can't do a will serve letter because Rockwell won't let us issue a will serve letter. So we're still
stuck at 2,400 until you guys.
We're not issuing any meters right now, right? Per RCH guidelines, 0 meters.
If anything that has to have a will serve letter, in McLendon-Chisholm, whatever, can't get a meter because Rockwell won't
I'm not talking
allow
about Rockwell, I'm talking about right now, there should be no meters per the guidelines in stage 4. You guys are not gonna approve a single meter to be installed with the guy.
I don't know if that's happening. I mean, that's something.
That's your guideline.
That's not my fault.
Yeah, they come by a meter, they get one.
Huh?
Hear what he said?
Yes.
If they buy a meter, they get one. Yeah.
What we requested of Rockwall, how many gallons per day is that you're making?
We've asked them to allow us to buy water for 3,250 meters to serve our 30.
And how much is that?
Without a amount per meter, we've asked for approval to serve all 3,250. So that, because we recognize y'all's usage is higher, and so we've asked them to allow us that much more water.
But they can still cap it at 2.1 if they want.
Well,
the way the contract would be.
Actually, it'll be a contract. The whole idea is it's going to be a contract revision. That's part of the deal is Rockwall has to do a revision to include letting us off, giving us service.
That's what I just asked you though. And you said y'all aren't renegotiating a contract.
No, it's not. So what they will do is rewrite an agreement with us to say, from this point forward, here's what it looks like. We will agree to serve you for the next 2 years while you're getting off on North Texas. That's what we've asked them. So yeah, it is it's an agreement, an interim agreement to allow us to get water from them.
So what I'm seeing is in the next 2 years, we're still going to have the same water restrictions that we have right now.
We've asked Rockwall to let us serve all of those connections and not limit us.
But you're never telling us what each connection is going to be limited to, or what you're looking at from each connection. You're saying 100 gallons per person.
No, that's the average. That's the state average.
That's in a 3-family thing, so 300 gallons per.
That's 9,000 per month.
Correct. So,
but Rockwall will be the one that will have to. I mean, the city council one will have to approve that. So we've asked them for service to not limit us while we're getting off.
Yeah.
They will be the ones that will offer us. We don't know what they're. We just said we need 2,550 connections and we need 700 more in the interim. Can you give us that? And that's what we don't have.
And that's if everything goes right and you get the easements, you get everything coming from Terrell. Yeah. And then if that doesn't happen, what's our fallback plan?
So because we have right of condemnation, we will get the easements in the property. We have to. We're forced to do that.
If they get it in paper flag already, we can take them around.
Yeah. We also, as a water supply corporation, we have a right to go out on public right of way. Yeah. So we can do one or the other.
I don't know his name, but that gentleman there in the hat, he just said that if they buy a meter, then they'll get it. So even though you just said you're not issuing the will serve letters, he straight up said that.
So we can't issue a will serve letter. So what was the name of the one? Heritage? It has to have a will serve letter before the plat is approved.
Like the house that's in Sonoma.
And so a house can't start because it doesn't have a will serve letter because the plat's not approved. For any phase of Sonoma Verde that's been approved, then if they're approved and they come in, according to Dwight, if they come in and buy a meter, they get a meter set.
But why is that? As residents current, why don't we stop?
This is, according to stage 4 of your website, it says no applications for new, additional, expanded, increase in water service connections, meter service lines pipeline extension mains or water service facilities of any kind will be approved. That's per RCH policy. You guys shouldn't be selling a single meter until this is fixed.
Agreed.
That's a point for the board
I mean,
to
this
consider.
is what you guys wrote up.
All right, hang on, that's a board decision. Okay. Yes, ma'am?
A while ago, I thought you said that Rockwall City is limiting us because they don't have enough water. So what is the likelihood that we'll get any increase at all?
So if they know we're getting all, because they're limiting us now because they want this to all happen. If they know we have a time frame and they approve the extra meters, because what they're falling back on right now is what's there. They're saying 2.1 million. Now, what the public works director at Rockwall's told me is they had to limit it because of growth within the city as well. So, but they're also, if you've kind of driven around, I mean, like when I came into town on 205, just south of town, they're doing improvements on facilities as well. It looks like pumps.
So several items. One, a lot of this stuff, if there was transparency, the information was on the website, we wouldn't be having a lot of these conversations because none of this has been disseminated. Over the past 3 years I've lived here, I've heard none of this, none of the things about the water tower. It's not not listed in upcoming projects, which it should be on the thing, saying it's an upcoming project, waiting on approval from McLendon-Chisholm to be able to start the build. None of that is there. So people are upset because we've got zero information. Another aspect is that I'm worried that the numbers that you're talking about, 700 connections, we're already saying that we're using 4 times that amount, but we're asking North Texas and Rockwall for connections based on the minimum state standards, when we know we're using 4 times that amount. So it means we're going to be in this ballpark again if we're only building to the minimums. And the third thing is that you said we've got 1.7 million gallons that we're using, which is under the cap that Rockwall is doing right now. But apparently we are not looking at the times of day that usage is taking place, and it's capping, as somebody said, in the middle of the night. We're getting somehow we're getting turned down. Even that storage tank is going dry in the middle of the night.
No, actually, so what's happening? That is a good point. So let me address that while that's on everybody's mind. So why at the middle of the night does it go down? It's because we don't cut it off at night and turn it back on at day. It's throttled back the whole time. That's when all the outdoor watering occurs, and so that's why everything's
okay.
dry.
So then you're saying that the tanks are going dry in the middle of the night.
Not dry, but it's getting low. It's getting lower.
But it's getting dangerously low at that point in the middle of the night. Which, if you look at your water analysis, you should be able to see that. Okay, we're using 1.7 million gallons in a day, which is under the 2.1 threshold. That you should be ramping up a little bit in the middle of the night to maintain the pressures. Because as I see it on my end, we don't have enough pressure. Even though you say we've got big enough lines, we're not getting the water at the pressure on those lines that we should throughout the 24 hours of the day.
Yeah, the amount of water is
even though we're using less than the maximum we're allowed to have, we're still not getting the pressures. So
yeah, it's throttled back is the reason. I mean, otherwise it all go. I mean, because believe it or not, people don't abide by the conservation requirements.
I strongly disagree with you on that, because basically you can go through our neighborhood, which used to be green, and I can take a broomstick out there and lose it in the freaking cracks. I can't even have animals outside because they'll break their legs.
I understand. So the reason for that is because it is throttled back, and so sprinkler systems aren't.
Show me a neighborhood that's green that we're using 1.7 million.
It's throttled back now, so you can't do as much outdoor.
Well, without the conservation.
So let me go to her, and then I come to you. I got her, then I got you, and then come back to you. Okay? We got to keep it.
I'm back on the tax, so I apologize, but
sure.
On the connections. So the city has worked very hard to get commercial in our area. Does this pretty much cut that all off?
No, it's a tax. So like it, for instance, I think there's a convenience store that's planned for the corner.
Exxon.
That's a single family tax. That's a single family equivalent.
300 gallons a day.
But so like,
Yeah.
so anything that's up in the city that's like at 550 and 205, any of those little areas up in there, you know, I think there's, you know, an area for Berkshires if it ever decides to come in and all that other stuff.
Yeah.
Will that be able to come in?
So if you don't have Brookshires yet, I live in Farmersville, we got Brookshires. It'll take at least 2 years. Once Brookshires starts looking, it'll be 2 years before it's built. So those, but what I'm getting at is, the good news is by the time any substantial business comes in, because we have to be off. We don't have to show. Hey, one thing we understand is, we've got to get on North Coast. There's no question we have to.
You're kind of holding the city hostage on not having any commercial until you guys get it together.
So what we did is the 700, the way we arrived at that is we looked at the developments that are proposed to be platted or waiting on final approval to get a will serve, like Heritage is one of them, that the city has, because you're on council, right? So that the city said we got to have a will serve letter and all that. So what we've done is we tallied up all those that are potential, and we added extra ones to it, knowing there is some, like a convenience store or an insurance office or this might, you know, different things might go in. Because we know if a subdivision goes in, it typically takes 2 years for a subdivision to work through the system. So we left the availability for some onesies, twosies to come in addition to that. That's presuming the city will approve it. They wanted us to only ask for a few hundred, 200 or 300. We asked for 700. So we've asked for way more than the city wants.
Did you think that the city just asked you to only do 100 or 200?
A few hundred. They would prefer if we didn't ask for any new ones.
And who did you ask?
The city manager and the public works director.
City of Rockwell.
City of Rockwell. Yeah, City of Rockwell. They're the ones who have to give us approval. So what they've done, they want us to not ask for any new connections or only a couple of hundred. We've asked for 700 because we know there's some people that are waiting out there for some of that. Now you were
Yeah,
not.
I'm trying to get the numbers of the water supply numbers under my head. I'm
Yes, sir.
trying to get, I'm just giving around them, 2.1 million gallons a day is what they're giving.
That's what Rockwell is.
Okay,
Yes.
and I may be wrong, you're the engineer, so I'm gonna rely on you here. If I use the state formula, that allows you, again, round numbers, about 1,360-70 liters. You want 3,200, that's 5 million gallons a day. Ever use that?
3,200. So what?
Well, if you use
So-
the state formula, it's 2.1 million gallons, gets you 1,300.
That's 300 gallons
You're
per
asking for
connection.
30.
That's 300 gallons per connection. So we
5
would
million
need.
gallons.
Yeah. No, 5 million gallons actually serves the amount that we would get from North Texas is.
Just the traffic.
So what we asked for from North Texas is for 6,000 connections. We've asked for 5.6 million gallons per day.
I'm talking about Rockwall. The grid, the supply.
But it's the same.
Here you get
Same criteria. Same.
Yeah, but they're gonna give you that much more.
So if we're at, so let's add the 700. The 700 from where we are now would get us to 3,200. That would be 2.9 million to nearly 3 million gallons a day.
Okay, and you can't serve for 2,500 gallons.
Yeah. Actually, our peak day is 3 million gallons. So that's the highest day. So which is.
The numbers you got, they're not working. 3 million gallons a day won't serve 3,200 people.
Yeah.
Not using what you're
it will with decreased watering.
But the way
With some decreased
the
watering.
way it goes now, if you look at what we use now versus the meters on there, 3 million gallons ain't gonna do it.
Right. But no one will sell us that much water. We can't buy that much water. They
Then you
won't
can't
allow us.
serve something you
Yeah.
just said. You
Well,
can't
so
spend-
what has to happen is you have to. So, for instance, Frisco's a great example. If you know anybody that's in Frisco, they as soon as summer starts, 1 day a week watering. That's all. That's all you get is 1 day a week water in Frisco. Plano, almost all the North Texas water district cities are at 2 day a week water.
So the city of Dallas, 2 days a week. We're at 0.
Yeah. Well, I understand, but I'm just saying, at a reduced amount, at 2 day a week watering, we'll use less than the 3 million gallons that we used was when everybody was watering all the time. That's why we use 3 million gallons. That's when we were using 400 gallons per person per day.
They're asking for 0 days. City of Dallas is 2 days.
No. So if Rockwall approves our request, we won't be at this level.
Right
We'll.
now,
I understand. You're correct. That is correct.
When's that change? That's my point. When's that change?
Whenever, if Rockwall will agree to give us the number of connections, and we get to go to North Texas, in the interim. So as soon as Rockwall will give us more water, we can change that. Yes, sir.
So he was before me. Go ahead and I have a
Okay, sure.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Daniel, for taking the time to try to go through all of this. It's helpful.
Can't hear you.
Richard. Thank you, Richard.
But I want to make sure that I understand that the kind of this interim plan that you're discussing. Right now, we're getting 2.1 million gallons. And you're going to go back to Rockwall and ask for about another million for these additional hookups over a 2-year interval. Do we really think that Rockwall's going to provide that additional supply over that duration, or?
That's a good question. We've asked for service to 2,550 connections plus 700 new ones. So without any limitation, so we're not at 100 gallons per connection or per meter per person per day or anything. We've just asked, will you approve us having 3,250 connections?
So how can we get water pressure from you guys? So we're cutting back. We're not watering our lawns, most of us. And we have no water pressure. You're throttling back, and we have no water pressure. So how do we get water pressure? I don't even drink the water. It's low.
So when there would be two things that'll help that. When Rockwall went well.
Okay. Now what are you doing?
Yeah. So let me just go into all the ramifications. So first thing that'll change that is whenever we get some rain. Okay, I mean that just helps because usage drops almost automatically whenever rain comes. Secondly, what'll happen is when Rockwall approves the letter and agrees to let us move forward, then we hope they're going to release more water to us. That's the idea. That's all we're going.
What is RCH doing now?
So at that point, so let me answer it. So at that point, what we'll be able to do is if they approve service to those, we could pump a lot more.
But that's at that point. What are you doing now? What have you done differently now?
We can't do anything while Rockwall is holding us to a minimum, to a maximum.
Usage has gone down. We're below the 2.1 because people have stopped watering.
Right.
And you can drive through neighborhoods. If you see somebody's grass is green, you probably should be issuing them the citations that your plan says you should. But assuming everybody stopped watering, the pressure's still a problem. And it's quite honestly a health issue. So what are you doing to solve the pressure issue, especially in the middle of the night?
The reason there's pressure issues is because we have a reduced flow into the system. That's the reason. Right. And that'll maintain we limit the amount because if we don't, it all sucks out and we run totally out of water.
Well, but looking at the numbers, you've got 1.7 million. We've got a limit of 2.1 million. That's 400,000 gallons. That's capacity available. That's not being used. That you should be able to ramp up slightly in the times when you know there is low pressure to adjust for that. So it's not just a flat line. Here's the maximum amount of water we're going to allow the system to intake.
Good point.
During the day, it should be adjusted based on the requirements.
We can see if we can inch that. What system operators trying to do is because when you run a system out of water, you know what happens. Everybody
my camera just like this.
totally out.
I gotta get my
and so you can't do that. You can't just run a system. It's one thing to have lower pressure. It's another thing to be 0 gallons in the system. And so it's this fine line of you know, how much is enough, and so when you turn it on a little bit more, it all, you know, how much is going to suck it. But we'll look at that. We will make an attempt to look at that and see if we can release a little bit more of that 2.1.
I understand your comment though. Those of us who have low pressure, it's sort of different for us. Because just for some, there could be infiltration. We should all be boiling our water all the time. Because we have such low water pressure. None of us want to get it because we're afraid of that.
Sure.
Yeah, we don't drink it, we don't cook with it.
Sure.
We don't water our yards.
I understand.
Well, that's the only thing.
Yes, sir.
So.
Oh, you're next. Sorry about that.
No, you do.
Well, go ahead.
No,
I'll take it.
So if everything aligns in the next 2 years and you get all the pump stations and the tank up, what did you say the capacity was at that point?
So we will have 500,000 elevated, another 500,000 elevated, and 2.5 ground. So it'd be 2 million gallons of storage in our system. TCEQ requires 200 gallons per connection, and so we'll have enough for 10,000 connections.
What's your maximum capacity per day at that point if you keep them full?
Well, so it's our maximum capacity is to serve 10,000 connections, but it just depends what actually people are using. So the regulatory agency, TCEQ, says you got to provide 2 gallons per minute of pumping, you got to provide 200 gallons of storage, you have to provide 0.6 gallons per minute of production capacity. So once you meet all that, if the system uses more than that, because that's the regulatory requirement, if the system uses more, then the TCEQ, the state, authorizes you to go on conservation. And so that's what happens there. But we got that.
Another reason to do this up is that right now we've got a capacity of 2.5, 3 million gallons, and if we double our capacity, we're about 6 million a day. So in 7 or 8 years, we're going to be in the same predicament because we're going to be at 5 or 6 million gallons a day in 7 or 8 years. Have we started planning already for that? So we're not going to sit and do like we did 7 years ago. We said we were going to fix this problem.
Yeah. So the pumps we are proposing to put in will pump 10 million gallons a day if we can get. So what you have to do is you have to get approval from, in this case, Rockwall to get it, but you have to. We'll have a contract with North Texas Municipal Water District. Mm-hmm. What you can't do is go buy what you need 40 years from now. They let you. It's a take or pay minimum, so you pay for it whether you take it or not. And so you can't buy any more than you need any given year. And then as you grow, your take or pay increases. So as the system grows and you buy more water, then your eligible contract increases automatically with North Texas.
So North Texas is take or pay. I thought Rockwall was take or pay.
Both. All of the above. Because see, Rockwall is a member city. They have a take or
So let me
pay.
ask you something. On the take or pay, is the contract, is that on a daily amount or is that on a
Yearly. It's a yearly, but they break it into a month. So they say they take your overall year, like North Texas, for instance. They take your year's usage and divide it by a total amount per year and divide it by 12. So you pay a monthly rate based on that take or pay method. So whether you're taking it in the summer or winter, it doesn't matter. It's divided evenly.
So we're kind of paying like 1.7 a day as opposed to, because in the winter we're only using 1 million, in the summer we're using 3 million.
Right.
We're not getting totally screwed on what we're paying.
So it's a grand total. So you look at the total amount you use and you have to pay for all of that. So, and it's divided by 12. So it's average. It's like your electric bill average.
So thank you. So a couple of points. So we buy annually. We use it monthly. We only use high volume in the summer. So we don't ever reach our maximum of what we've purchased. Why are they cutting our water off? Why are we not in a logistical fight with Rockwall to step up to the plate and not hold us back? We don't use, but you said it, 400,000 in the winter. They can afford to give us the water that we need now. That's my
so
first
they have
question.
a peak. So let me address that right quick. I'll come back to you for a second question. So the reason they do that is they have a peaking maximum. North Texas allows them to peak at 2.2 times your average. Rockwall passes that forward. So that's why is if you use, let's make it simple. You use 1 million gallons a day in the winter.
No, it's straightforward. So
they let you use
what it means
2.2 million gallons in the summer.
What it means is that we need more storage. If we want to be able to manage the summer, we need more storage so we don't have to draw more water.
Yeah, actually, so the problem we have right now is we have to shut the pumps. We have to decrease the amount because we don't get enough into the system.
We only have a
to
day's
send
worth of
it.
storage. We have 2 million gallons worth of storage.
Right.
Right, so we
Yeah.
have a day's worth. That's part of the problem. So when we go
Oh,
over
no,
that and
but
empty the tanks.
see, if you can't fill a storage tank up in one day, you can't fill up in 5 days. So
I understand.
Storage is not, now storage is an issue.
But cutting us off-
But in this case,
Sure,
when you limit,
sure.
well, just a second. So when the city limits, puts us on a daily maximum, that's your limiting factor.
I understand that, but you've cut us back by 20%. We are all spending money fixing our yards. We are having trouble with foundations, we're having trouble.
Driveways cracking?
Everything is moving. What will RCH do to step up to the plate to pay those repairs? Nothing. Understood. But in the meantime, you're going ahead and you're the engineer and I understand you're forward thinking. The rest of the board that are sitting there with their mouths shut, because we should be saying something, are taking no action. We're going to issue meters no matter what. We're going to put 700 more. We're asking for so much from Rockwall. Of course they'll say no. Of course they'll sit on the fence. What do they care? Why don't we throttle back and stop issuing meters? Why don't we throttle back and say, we don't want 700 more meters from you, Rockwall. We're good for 200 because that covers us for 2 years till we get it from a different spot. Why are we're just asking so much and getting nowhere?
Sure, it's a great point. So let's say they do come back, Rockwall comes back and says, well, we're not going to approve 700, we're going to approve 200. That's what we'll have to live with.
Why don't we ask for 200? Why don't we ask for so much?
Well, because we would like for them to provide us enough water for that. Because the same thing the lady.
I understand. So what's the point?
You're holding us back. You know, we don't want to be held back. So.
No, I get that. So we want to have more income. We want to generate more business for RCH by having the opportunity to bring in more homes, but we don't have the infrastructure to support it. That is wrong. That's the cart before the horse.
We actually have the infrastructure if we get water into the system.
But there's all these ifs. I understand all of the plans. Somebody said
We're beating
7,
a dead
10.
horse there.
That's right.
We're
7, 10, 15
We all
years.
understand the problem. I mean, I get where you're coming from.
This group of people
Yeah.
have spent a lot of money in their time to be here today to listen to the plans, and it's been great to hear it. But the fact of the matter is, we're going to go home, we're going to tell our spouses and our neighbors, nothing's going to change for 2 years.
Yeah.
Boil your water. Don't water in the middle of the night. Don't worry about your cracked foundation because nobody cares. And we're going to continue to put water meters up for new subdivisions. That's just wrong.
So the good news
Because
is.
of lack of planning.
So the good news is, if Rockwall will agree to let us, to give us, to allow us to serve 2,550 connections plus some more, 100, 200, 500, 700, whatever it is, let's hope that they agree to, well, let me finish.
So feel free to
So,
get a bus.
hold on.
Get a bus. We'll all get on the bus and we'll go to Rockwall with you.
Let me finish. So if they agree to that, we have an elevated tank that's about to get ready to start construction. We have, if they'll give us some more water to put into our system, then we'll float water into 2 elevated tanks on the system. And while we're doing the rest of the updates to get on to North Texas. So it's not nothing for 2 years. There's some things that are going to happen.
You know what, in my state, for me it is nothing because every water break is $200, right? So I'm going to spend money for 2 years to manage this problem.
I understand asking for more. I mean, you're asking for a certain percentage over what we're getting right now. The problem is issuing new meters when we're in this situation that we are right now. Great, go and ask for 5,000 more meters. Get us more water. We don't give a shit. It's the issuing new meters that is just going to kill us, and we're going to continue to come to you every freaking board meeting and sit in here and take up your whole time.
And that's something definitely the board can consider.
Why don't you have them vote now and say, no more connections?
Well, they can't legally do that because it's not in the agenda, but they can, all of this info they can put on an agenda and take action.
Based on what one person said, it's in the bylaws, they're not supposed to be issuing any more.
You're
meters,
next.
so.
Okay.
Your, water tank, the new one.
The new one.
Which is a project, that will solve a lot of pressure issues on that area of the line, correct?
Yes, sir. It will help with capacity. It's going to give you
Well,
it's going to give you your
higher your water is, but
20 gallons a minute at 35 psi. Yeah, it will. It's going to help dramatically the capacity.
It is not going to help with capacity. You've already said that you're limited to 2.1 million per day.
Now, if Rockwall doesn't give us more than 2.1, we will have issues. If they limit it I want to be clear, as long as Rockwall's limiting us to 2.1 million gallons per day, that's going to be a problem. We will be on conservation. Definitely. We have no choice.
Then why are new meters being allowed?
That's That, we already said that's a board consideration.
So the board is sitting here.
Okay, yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Your standard planning factor,
Just a second.
your standard planning factor for use per household seems antiquated. If you go back, I think one person said, we've been in this position 7 years ago, somebody said it was longer than that. Going back to 2015, you have data points. This is average household is using 500 gallons a day. That's what you should be planning for, not the standard planning factor of 300 gallons a day.
We do use, so we use the average household usage per connection, but North Texas Municipal Water District will only allow us to peak at 2.2 times our average. Okay, no matter what, they say whatever your average use is, you can peak at 2.2 times that.
All right, we'll use more.
Okay. We're trying to wrap up. I think everybody's kind of talked out, but yes, sir.
Well, I'm just trying to do some math. And
Okay.
1,000,007 gallons per day with 2550 connections. Yep. Averages, and you said you're supposed to use 3 people per household,
Yep.
right?
Yes, sir.
That comes out to 200 gallons per person per household, blah, blah, blah.
Correct.
That's it.
Correct.
So at 1.7 million gallons, nobody can turn on any, you can't wash the car, they can't, do any water. But, here at 1.7, we're not getting our 200 gallons per person.
Oh, that's what it is. I mean, so we take 1.7.
But it's not being
Oh,
fed to our
believe me,
commodes.
people are using
It's not
it.
being fed to our commodes
Oh,
or
it-
to
yeah.
brush our teeth.
It gets used. Sorry, but it does. It gets sucked out of there as fast as you can imagine.
Maybe they have a break in the line somewhere.
Well, I mean, yes, ma'am.
Keep blaming it always on the homeowners.
What has been done or is done to consider water management? You talk about Frisco is able to water once a week. This isn't new, this has been going on for years.
Correct.
So does anyone sit back and look at year over year when we had these problems, why don't we take some forward steps to manage the water ahead of time so we can water our lawns once a week? If that's what we need to do, that would at least protect our investments. I mean, more can be done by this group here, and I think more people would be on board with it because we understand water's a precious resource. We need to protect it, so why aren't we doing something about it?
Point taken.
I mean, it's a question, it's not.
Well, in support of that point, about 5 or 6 years ago or so, we went to an official early, twice a week watering. I had the best water pressure that I had for 5 years either way, because people bought into it, and we didn't get to the crisis stage ahead of time.
Yep.
We started early. And I suggest that the board
share my live
needs to do
feed
that.
on there if you want. I have it on
Every
my
city
Facebook
does
page.
that. We didn't do that. We just said, crisis, no water today.
Understand. Yes.
I don't talk about very much, but that was my concern. June 3rd, I saw where we were gonna be going into a drought situation, and we've been here for 15 years, so I knew what was gonna happen. So I started cutting my yard higher, just a notch or two, to keep it up. And then we went into trying to cut our water back, not being forced to. But I think if we did it to where, starting in June, and only water a couple times a week, even odd days with your residence number, it would help. To where we wouldn't get in this situation in the summertime.
And that gets back to the water, the management.
Yeah.
Do we as a board, we as a water company get more aggressive about year-round conservation instead of summer-only conservation?
Yes.
And that, hey, by the way,
And it's better for your yard.
the regional provider will tell you that if you go on North Texas Municipal Water District website, they have all sorts of great facts about usages and capacities and quantities and all that building a new reservoir. But they're already out of all of the new reservoir has been committed to new growth, to the entities that they're taking water from. And so they realize, and they'll tell you that. You can look at the data on it and it'll say a certain amount of reduction has to come from conservation, not in new production, not building new reservoirs, but in conserving. So.
I would really like to hear some of the administrative concerns be addressed.
Okay, so is that all the questions for me? Did you have a question for me?
I apologize that I came in late, so I tried my best to watch as much as I could. I haven't gathered a whole lot of empathy in the situation that we're in from anything that I've been able to witness today, whether it be from yourself or the board. Most of the complaints that I get, and I am on the city council in McLendon-Chisholm, most of the complaints that I get from people who have reached out to me is when they call this place, man, you're treated like a redheaded stepchild from another world. And that, to me, if that hasn't been addressed by now, shame on you, shame on the board, and shame on whoever answers that phone. Because in my world, in the businesses that I run, that person would have been fired. Unfortunately, I guess y'all can't do that. I also haven't seen anyone say anything about what would have happened if this drought wouldn't have happened. Were y'all even pre-planning anything else? Or were y'all just hoping to get by another year? So again, if I came in late and I missed some of that stuff, don't have to answer it again. Just that's my concern, and that's why.
So I can answer the technical issues, the engineering issues. So the drought kind of started end of May, right? I mean, it's been 60 days or so. The drought started. At that point, we're below our usage, system-wide usage, is below what Rockwall's cutoff point is. We're okay. So if you got water in May, you're good. I mean, we would still be there. What happened last year, if you recall, is we got some rains. You go along, we get a rain, and then we go 2 or 3 weeks or a month, we get a rain. And so it's dramatically decreased the amount of usage. It's in July when we peaked out. That's the whole idea. Our max day was July the 8th, 3 million gallons. And so that's the deal is, if we weren't in the drought, we believe we'd be okay. It's just the usage dramatically, so through June, it just kept going up, 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 up. Then July kept going up, up, up. Obviously in August, it dropped off because we went to rationing.
But what we're asking is for y'all to actively manage that. We don't see that data. We don't know it's going up, 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 up. When you see that, and you see the forecast just like we do, implement stage 1. Let's not go to critical stage instantly.
And then out of water the next day.
Understand.
And follow your contingency plan. If there's meters being issued now, you're in violation of it, and that needs to stop. So, I mean, to me, it's not even the board making a decision. It's act on what you've already decided on.
You said that needs to be voted on by the board, whether new permits are going to be issued for new connections. When is that going to happen? And as members and owners of this company, I think we can all agree we don't want any more meters and no more taps. Period.
Yeah. I mean, I can't, obviously.
There's something else that you guys just said, that you're waiting on McLendon-Chisholm. Well, I just got a text from somebody who was on McLendon-Chisholm's planning and zoning. And she says, RCH only submitted the zoning request in June of 2022. She was there. Why didn't they submit it in August of 2021? Because that's what you've been telling us. You've been waiting a year, and what she's telling me, and she was there, it was a month ago.
Yeah, actually, I was at that meeting, and we were supposed to get approval then, but we didn't. But we did submit, or it went to the city. We have a filing date of when we turned it into the city. I can provide that to the council or whoever. I don't mind providing that. I mean, I'll be upfront about that. I'm not saying we're perfect in it. I'm not saying the city is. It was a joint. The engineer for the city, the planner for the city, there was a transition of city administrators. There's, so there's a lot going on. So it's a combination.
It would be very useful if the timeline could be put together, because we're the recipients of all the bad news. And you can tell we are dissatisfied with what's going on. We want to hold you accountable, and if we need to hold somebody else accountable, we can take that action as well.
Sure. I understand. Okay. I think I'm done. I'm talked out. Thank y'all for listening. I know it's.
Anybody have any comments? Mark? You, Mr. Steve?
Mark, would you explain how these meters are issued? So I wish y'all would pay attention, because you think we're up here, well, let me just say something right off the bat. We don't get paid anything. We're elected and we serve for free. We live under the same rules y'all. You can go look at my yard, it's burned up just like yours. So, I mean, we're in this with y'all. If you think we're up here trying to make it easy on us, you are badly mistaken. We live under the same rules, we're going through the same stuff. We're just trying to figure out how to get this taken care of. In the end, I mean, I'm just going to say this, and forgive me, we only get so much water from up there, and we have to make it work for everybody down here. We cannot get any more water, and we cannot stop you people from using water. We can't stop you. We can ask you not to, and we try to explain that, and then what can we do? What
better communication is what you can do. Okay. So your communication is terrible.
I'm not going to argue that with you.
So your communication is one of them. The other one is you're talking about, you can't control what people are doing down here because you can only get so much water here. Okay? You're talking about, putting more meters in. You want him to be able to address that. Well, you're right. There's not much you can control. You can't control the weather. You can't control how much we use, but you can control meter use or meter permits.
We're fixing to explain to you, we can to a degree, but to another degree, we cannot.
But we're not here against you personally, and whether you're in it with us or not, that's great. You're feeling the pain that we do. I just spent $12,000 in trees, and I'm watching them wilt.
And I'm sorry. I don't know what else we could have done to alleviate this process. Last year, we put in the lines that increased the water. We didn't have any problems last year. We had a little bit, but virtually nothing like the year before.
I've been here 3 years, and what I'm hearing is a gentleman over here, 15 years. This has been... So, that's the problem.
I will say y'all have improved greatly your ability to move the water. Your new pipeline and stuff are great.
Thank you.
So the city's got the drought contingency plan, which has been talked about a lot here. What that speaks to is when you're in stage 4, I think, or whatever the stage we're in, talks about no new applications for service. That doesn't talk about existing requests for meters from existing contracts. Okay, so when we're talking about no new meters will be issued, it's no new applications for service. So when we have a non-standard service agreement that we signed, I don't know, a year or two ago, and we're issuing permits or issuing meters from that, we're contractually bound to do that. Not only contractually bound, but we're bound regulatorily by the TCEQ and the PUC to continue to provide that service. So the fact that meters are being issued is not necessarily because they're new requests. It's that these applications have been filed and in the queue for a period of time. Now, I don't know how many.
That's what I was going to ask. How come you don't know how many?
Because I'm just a lawyer here. I don't operate.
Who does?
But so yes, sir.
We're using the wrong term, I think, from listening to you. I think you have under state law. There's so many meters that you basically have contracted with. You promised people, a developer. You have to honor that. I understand that. No new meters, to me, then would mean
new request for service.
Mm-hmm. A brand new request for service. You say, nope, sorry, not that.
Right, and that's what Eddie talked about earlier. He's saying we're not issuing will serve letters, meaning a developer's coming in saying, I've got a development coming in for 100 new acres for 400 new homes. And what Eddie said was, we're not telling them, yes, we can serve you. Okay?
That's why we're not issuing a new meter.
Right, but we've got commitments, just like that
backlog
that we have to honor. just like, yes.
Well, I guess the question comes in is, okay, we're in stage 4. We already know we are overdrawn on the system, for the year. Yet, even in the non-stage 4 environment, we have, issued new meters, knowing that we don't have the capacity when the summer comes to service that. That's a problem I see. A major problem that we keep, okay, in the winter, great, we're only using 400,000, we can issue another 100 meters, out. And they get issued out, and then in the summer, we're now 100 meters, well over 100 meters over. From what I understand, we're well over 1,000 meters, over what we're allowed to, almost 1,200, what, the capacities, our input capacities allow, so.
If you speak of contract, what about your contract with the city of Rockwall not to exceed 1,359 meters? And that's the only contract that's in place right now until you get this updated contract. We just issued 1,000 meters over what you're contracted to for your supplier.
That's right. Was it 50-60% more?
No, it's almost 100% more.
Yeah,
1,300 is 25.
Basically, they're selling twice as much water that they have contracted out there, and they've had how many years to resolve this? They've not done anything on these interim years in between, and now because they're in a rock and a hard place, they're having to deal with pitchforks and all of us, and they're just sitting here. They're going to say, "Well, we'll get it next year. We're going to get something maybe from the guys at the rock wall. If they're going to give us 100,000 more or 1 million more gallons, maybe." It's very troubling.
And they're blaming the cities and God for no rain.
So a proposal or a possibility, if you can't stop issuing the meters that you've promised, at least tell the builders that they cannot plant grass or sod till the fall. No landscaping for new homes. Take a step in the right direction, so if they have a meter, they take a shower, flush the toilet, they don't care. But they're not gonna go out and put in new lawns, water them every night, and use more water for the rest of us not to use, because that's what will happen. Is that possible?
Where, our jurisdiction is in the provision of water, not that type of lawn maintenance type stuff. Cities do that. It's very common for cities to do that. And it's very, very common for cities to have not only tree ordinances, but as well as lawn maintenance and the types that you can do. We're not a municipality. We're just a water supplier.
So that means that in our neighborhood, we have an HOA and it's required that we water to keep our lawns and our trees green. We'll just turn the water on today then. I'm not understanding. There's a catch-22 that you just presented as a lawyer. Sorry, sir.
I agree with you.
Not acceptable.
I've no control over the HOA requirements in either the school or this company.
And something I do want to say is, I understand you guys are all volunteers, but as accepting this position, you have accepted the responsibility to do the job. Even though you're a volunteer not getting paid, you have accepted the responsibility to do the job and to do it, so we don't get into these kind of situations. So, and I appreciate that you volunteered for this, because I've been on that side of that where people have come with the pitchforks, and it's not pleasant. But you can't as a volunteer get up and say, "Well, I'm a volunteer. Just don't hold me responsible." You are still responsible because you accepted the position.
I agree 100%. But I'm also going to have to say that there's a limit to what we have control over to change.
And see, that's one of the issues I brought up.
Absolutely one of those, and that's not being addressed either.
So, the transparency.
I just got another text from, and I'm going to read it to you, from the Planning Commission of McLendon-Chisholm. It says, "It is RCH's responsibility to get us more water to keep up with demand. If they can't get it from Rockwall, and they know that they can't, because the contract limits us since 2009, 13 years ago, so you people who are complaining, you're right. They have known, and Rockwall has told us, if we want more water, we need to go direct. And that's what you're finally proposing. I'm saying, that this board has utterly failed in its job. Because you've known for, what, since 13 years.
Sir, we applied to go to North Texas prior to you ever being here. I imagine, how many years have you lived here, sir?
I've only been here 4 years.
We applied years and years ago, and the city of Rockwall turned us down. We applied 3 times to them. So.
Well, what's your alternative?
We're working on it now, sir.
Okay.
We put up with 3 or 4 more years just like this?
Okay, granted, we can't fix what the past was, but we should learn from it and move forward.
Exactly, sir.
One of those items is learning.
We're working diligently to get that done.
Okay, one of those items that I hear is that you said they've applied 3 times in the last 13 years. That should be addressed. If there's an issue, that you guys should be applying every year, multiple times a year, because you know it's a crisis, not waiting 5 years in between each application.
I don't want to disagree with you, but it's been approved, so, I mean.
Yeah, we got approval.
It's been.
I mean,
well,
they sent the letter to North Texas allowing, that saying we would like for RCH to go. So they did finally approve it.
Okay.
They did. And I don't want to chunk any darts at the city of Rockwall.
Right.
But I'm just saying, those are the kind of things that are examples.
The city of Rockwall.
And the transparency in all of this has been zero. And how are we going to fix the transparency issue? What is going to be done to fix the fact that the bylaws aren't available for any one of the members to see? And even when you request them, like I said, I called, I got attitude, and the lady just said, we'll just send them to you, and then hung up. That's the kind of response we get from the front desk here.
Customers aren't even allowed to come into this office. The doors are locked. They are told they cannot come in.
Yeah, but we ran out of water. I was just told we're out of water, and I was hung up on that. We're working on it. It's going to be a day, a week. I panicked. I completely panicked because it was just we're out of water. Hang up. Like, you're on your own. It was earth-shattering. And I think that's why we're all just so upset now, more so than any other year. I was here last year or the year before when we had to boil water. Okay. But then just have no compassion when you call.
And to add to the transparency, there's also, at least know that myself or any people I'm talking to are going to find is the financial information. I asked a question about how much of that $14 million is in reserve. There's no financial information we can find. All this work's going on. How big of a bill are we going to get hit with because of it? And speaking of bills, I'll go to your rates. If you go to the Public Utility Commission, the last tariff and the rates you're charging us don't align. And there was never any communication of that I'm aware of. No justification of it. No nothing. So there's a big disconnect there that requires some explanation to the members.
Gosh, nobody can say anything.
So that's my question. I feel like we're talking and asking questions, but there's no response. So how are we going to get answers and information we're asking? I don't know if I can talk that well and get as much response. I mean, I appreciate the technical feedback, but how do these things get resolved? I don't know. I'm new here. So help me out. Help me connect the dots.
You will address that to Steve.
All right. We have.
Hang on, Steve, just for a second. Hey, guys. They're trying to speak, and it's going to be really hard to hear. Thank you. Okay.
The board realizes, and it takes responsibility for the fact that there has not been good dissemination of information on our website. We do understand that when you call up here, sometimes you're treated rudely, and we apologize for that. And it's our plans to try to rectify that. we're working to, we've kind of been caught in a bad spot here too. We've had to deal with municipalities that have been virtually shut down by COVID. We've had difficult times working with engineers, with other municipalities, people, because of COVID that did throw us behind. I'm not saying that's an excuse, I'm just saying that's a fact. If you were in business, you would know that COVID presented a huge hurdle for businesses. We understand your frustration, and I tell you, we are committed to trying to turn this thing around, but we can only say that from going forward, I can't change what's happened in the past. We take full responsibility for it. And you're right, even as volunteers, we have responsibilities. We need to do a better job. So we're gonna do a better job. I'm making notes here. We're gonna get the bylaws on the website. We're gonna try to put a synopsis of what you've heard today on that website so that you can see it, look at it whenever you want to. You can also see our usage figures. It's also on the website. And if you're not getting the notifications that you need, if you'll go to that website, there's a place to sign up to get those notifications. You'll get them on the phone. But you do have to sign up for them. I mean, we're your neighbors. We're not trying to make this hard, and we're not trying to stick our head in the sand. Sometimes it just gets a little tough to deal with. And we're trying to get that straight.
What can we do to help you?
Contrary to some of those folks that asked for the bylaws, I've been dealing with this situation for almost 20 years. And folks said they were going to be mailed to them. I didn't trust that. So Art, I made an open records request. I mailed it by certified mail. It got picked up. The 10 days ran, I think, this past Monday. I was going to wait 15 days and then go and file a complaint with the county attorney for violation of the Open Records Act. And when the 30 days ran, and I assumed they wouldn't do anything because I figured y'all were all kind of cliquish, then I was going to file that complaint with the Attorney General. So are you telling me that I don't need to file the complaint with the Attorney General because you're going to make the bylaws available?
The lady that puts that stuff on the website is out with COVID right now. As soon as she gets back, we'll get those on there.
Can you tell me when that will be so that I'll know whether to go ahead and file my complaint with the county attorney?
Oh, you know, I want to say one thing about that lady. She is running 3
That's correct.
companies.
That's correct.
Are the other 2 companies have the same kind of problems we have?
Yes.
Well, if they do, what is she doing? She's not a very good manager.
I'm assuming
If everybody's having a problem.
I'm assuming y'all contract for that service, is that correct? That's what I expected. So you're right. She's contracting 3 different water services, running them all through this office right here. That's correct.
Yeah.
Now, back to my question. Do I need to file a complaint Monday?
If you walk up here, I'll give you a copy right there.
You can give it to me whenever everybody kind of breaks.
Okay. I've got your copy right
And
there.
if you don't want more of those, if you don't want to take a chance on a complaint like that, then when someone asks to see the minutes, things like that they're entitled to see, then you need to make those things available. Part of the Open Records Act.
Understood.
I think you said you were going to put it on the website, so that's all
While we're fixing things, could we raise the limit on $400 for electronic payment? My wife hates writing checks, but it's like every time she goes on there to try to charge or whatever. I mean, we can Venmo, Zelle it, whatever, but we hit $400 and it says you got to mail it in or bring it in.
We'll try to address that. I can't tell you that we're going. Okay. I've stood up here. I'm a 70-year-old man. I'm telling you, I could have done a better job. I didn't, and I apologize, but I can try to rectify it. We're going to work hard to try to get this straightened out. And I don't know what to say besides that.
Well, one, I appreciate it. And two, like she said, what can we do for you? So I will offer what I can do. I own a land surveying business, so if I can help you with the plat, I'd be more than happy to at cost.
Well, I appreciate that, and we've just got to make some changes in here internally, and,
But you have a community of professionals, I'm
Reach out
sure,
to us.
mixed up in here.
We're
And
all
I'm
in this
sure,
together.
yeah, and I'm sure everybody would be able to offer their services not free, but at cost, definitely. And I can help you even with the planning and zoning, because I work with them all day long. We have In-N-Out and Racetrack are our two biggest clients.
and, you know, the big thing that I heard this from you is perhaps we could look and Dwight and you, Eddie, can talk about this, if there's a way to get more water into this system so that, you know, you can at least flush it for us. That's terrible.
Also, if we could come up with a schedule for when we can water, protect our residents.
I think there should have been a schedule in your bill.
And really,
I just got my bill and it told me that I could hand water and use a soaker.
what's the science between hand watering versus our
That's on the website, using a hose and a sprinkler, that is on the website that you can do that, ma'am. You can put a drip, soaking hose around your foundation.
Right, but I'm saying, like a dishwasher is more efficient than washing your dishes in your sink. Is it true that we use less water hand watering than we do on our sprinklers?
Man, I use paper plates.
I barely hear you.
But I mean, I would like y'all to
Sprinkler
understand.
system that gives water far more efficiently than my hose, so.
One second here, but I'd like y'all to understand that, you know, you can, it was in my bill this month, you can water twice a week, and there's the hours were noted on there, and
You need to check your website and your stuff, because there's absolutely no water in state.
Well,
Yeah, I mean, I understand, but it's, you know, that's the input, that's the input level.
hold on. And
Please.
We'll get that rectified out of it.
Hang on, guys. If
We'll
he's fine.
get this rectified, and I promise you, it should be able to happen the first part of next week. But you can water around between.
I was just going to suggest, and I don't know if it's the board or administration or what, but I understand that you have commitments for things that you previously approved that you have to give the meters to. But can you do something to where there's no more commitments made until this
Absolutely, and
gets?
that's part of the stage 4 that we're talking about.
Okay,
Two,
so no more.
3 developments that are out here in the periphery that we can't talk to them right now, cannot make any commitments to them because of where we're at right now. Plus, we know we can't get the water for them.
You said an operative thing there, because we're in stage 4. It should be not until we have more capacity.
Well, and
Because just being in stage 4 means you won't approve them this month or next month, but we'll make a commitment in December because we're not pulling, and it'll hurt us next year.
Now I'm gonna have to say that we have done some of this right, because when was it that Trilogy came? I mean, they came to us back in the winter, and we told them, no, we can't talk to you guys. We told them no.
I mean, I like the fact that we're developing. Don't get me wrong, but we've got to have infrastructure.
So we're just, all I can say is we as a board are gonna try to clean this up and do a better job. And we're gonna try to do as fast as we can.
You rest assured of that.
But reach out for help. I think all of us are willing to help. You're not in this alone.
Let's see. Yes, sir?
I was going to reinforce what we're just saying about help. You know, and I'll just use an example, our engineer, because they were talking about various stumbling blocks that came along. We've got 40 or 50 people here that if we need to march to someplace else and raise Cain, to put pressure on that engineer at wherever, Rockwall or McLendon-Chisholm, that's what we need to do. We're willing to do that.
But you gotta help, just point us in that direction.
Right.
I don't, yes,
Let me
Richard.
make a comment. Y'all listen to me and pay attention. These guys here, I've known for years. They're good people. They may have got behind the 8 ball here a little bit, but these are good, honest men. I've known them a long time, and I have faith in them. And I have one question for your attorney there, but I do have, these are good men. These guys aren't screwing around. They don't come up here and fight ball and drink beer. I promise you, they're good people. I've known them too long. Pillar of the county right there, Jackie Wool, his family been here forever. Fine man I know. One of them, well, Steve Hatfield is going to tell you. But this is your shot, and this is the only one you're going to get. You know, but I don't blame you people, because I know y'all, I think somewhere we got behind the 8 ball. It only for Mr. Attorney, I can't remember your name.
Fine.
Okay.
Whatever you come up with will be better than anything in here.
Corporation to the city of Rockall for 1,359 meters or whatever. We're in violation of that contract. What are those ramifications?
I'm not sure, to be honest with you.
Okay.
That's not
That's something I think I looked into.
that's,
If they've been in violation of the contract long time. And we don't need it, because I don't want these people in any trouble. I've known them too long. And I know they're trying hard. I like the plans you got, I just think you're 5 years behind the 8 ball on this shit.
I don't want to do anything rude here, but we have whipped this horse to death, and we hear it, we understand, and in a few minutes, I'm going to make a motion that we adjourn this meeting. Is there anything that anyone would like to say in the next 5 minutes?
So we'll just have one question.
Here, why haven't we not had elections for board members?
You know, that could fall on that list of many things we've talked about, but that is going to be rectified too.
And we have one deceased person on the board. The board can appoint.
No, I'm the replacement for that deceased person.
Well, you're pretty good.
But, ma'am.
Just one question.
Yes, ma'am.
On the restrictions, some of the people have said, just because they hide them off, they have an extension. Or if they've just been inside, they have an exemption to be able to water. Is that true or not?
No, ma'am, and once again, I'm gonna say, we are limited as to how, this is kind of like the honor system.
Yeah.
And I mean, I can't say any more than that.
Okay, well that's when I called up here, that lady has been very nice to me, and I have called 4 times within the last month. And she has always been very sweet, and I've asked questions and she gives me the answers.
Sometimes
I know, there's times that things are gonna be good and things are gonna be bad.
Yes, ma'am.
I just want to say, I appreciate y'all listening to us beat this horse.
Yeah.
Because there's a lot of frustration here. It's good to know that we're all in this together, and we hear your commitment to making a difference.
You
And that's it to
frustrated?
deal with.
You don't, I had to sell 111 cows the other day. I had to sell 111 cows the other day because of this drought and no rain. And you think I'm not upset?
No,
Because I had spent years and years on these cattle, getting to where I wanted to have them. And I'm getting old, and I probably won't be able to rebuild my herd like I'd like to. I mean, and it's not just drinking water, it's
And that's been my point. I mean, we're all in this together.
yes, ma'am, we are, and I appreciate you saying that so much.
Yeah.
And I guarantee you that we're gonna work on
Good,
it.
and that's
Because
why I'm glad
we,
here.
we have an engineer there that is on top of everything, and I guarantee you that we will get this problem solved. And
It's not gonna be fast.
no, sir, it's not gonna be an overnight deal. No, sir, it's not. The main thing is, hopefully we can get some rain, get all of this settled out, and get things back halfway to normal. But I read in one article that it's gonna take over 8 inches just to get our soil back saturated to where it should be. And
hopefully we don't get it like Kentucky did.
oh, that's exactly right.
And, Jackie, I feel your pain. I farmed 6,000 acres in Louisiana, and this diesel fuel and fertilizer killing me.
What are you talking about?
Y'all ask you to move forward with the tower and all the permitting and stuff, that you guys post that so that we.
So I was about to say, transparency would have addressed many of these things, and I hear you're working on it, and it's not gonna be fixed tomorrow, but that itself would have addressed a lot of our concerns. And the last thing I'll say is, hope is not a strategy. Hoping for rain, hoping for not too much, you gotta have plans, and they gotta be realistic.
Yes, ma'am.
And they gotta be worked.
It's like I said, we had applied several times with Rockwall to be, for us to go to North Texas. Rockwall making a lot of money off of us, selling us water.
So use us.
So
We can
it
walk
boiled
down there
down
and
to
be
that right there, and I'm not chunking darts at the city of Rockwall at all. And I wish that we were still getting that 3 million gallons where y'all could be watering and everything like that. Because we're looking at several $1 million worth of improvements that's coming up. And, for us to be able to service that, we need to sell water.
Yep.
So, one question about, you keep talking about the millions of dollars. Have you guys gone to the cellular companies and looked at getting towers put on there for subsidizing some of these improvements?
I'm not aware.
I couldn't hear you.
I said, have you guys gone to the 3 major cellular carriers and said, hey, we're getting ready to put up square footage that you can mount cell towers on and help subsidize some of all these charges? Because if you drive around the Metroplex, every city's towers back to cell towers.
I get big money to put them up there.
Yeah. So I can answer that a little bit. So everywhere there's, believe me, cellular companies know instantly when a tower goes up. It's immediate. Oh yeah, and they identify them and they call you. You don't have to go call them. They call you. We have tons of clients that have cellular antennas
But we like for you to be proactive too.
or broadband antennas on there. And boy, let me tell you, they call you immediately. So they're very easy. But it's got to work for them. So if they got another tower down the road, they're not going to.
There's no towers in HPR, trust me.
Our cell service in HBR are subsidized.
Maybe when they see this tower going up, they'll make that call. And we can certainly call them. Yeah, we work with AT&T, T-Mobile, so
Mr. Chairman,
we can do that.
Now, everything you said about Rockwall turning you down, Jackie, that's when you could have used people like us. We gone down there and raised hands.
Yeah.
I move to adjourn this meeting.
Had a motion to move to adjourn the meeting. Do I hear a second? All those in favor say aye. Aye. Those opposed, motion carries.
Thank y'all.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you all.